Hey my friends, this is Davey speaking. More from the series because we love Trezoitão, right, my brothers? Wow, the oil is already here, but we can get through. So, Renato Trezoitão, he went off on Raquel Sheherazade. Charazade, I don't even know how to say her last name, right? But anyway, he went off on her. Why? She's involved in a controversy most of you have likely seen. She literally went off on Uber. The situation itself, look, my brothers, it's not about liking the person or not. I had already made a video here a long time ago. 12 years ago, we made a video. 10 years ago, when Raquel started telling the truth, right? On the SBT News when she was put there as an anchor. She started speaking the truth about Carnival and so on. A completely different Raquel, but as the saying goes, tell me who you walk with and I'll tell you who you are. It happened as soon as she started hanging out with leftists, started dating a leftist, she completely changed her mind. Today, she's a different person. I believe that if she saw herself before, she'd attack herself, right? So with that, the same thing happened as with that other one who used to hang out with Bolsonaro, right? That Joyce, who people affectionately call Pigleg. It was the same thing. She started thinking too highly of herself. I made the video praising Raquel. Why? Because she would even stand up to Silvio Santos, who wanted to stay more neutral on these subjects, right? After all, TV networks in general make a lot of money from Carnival. So, Raquel speaking out was bad, right? The government didn't like it, so I took her side, I praised her. I mean, it's rare for an intelligent woman like that in the media to have the courage to speak out. And she did, right? Even being called out on shows and so on. Even with Silvio Santos himself, so we admired her. And that's it. It's not a matter of whether I like her or not. Now, in this situation here, in this complaint she's making about the Uber driver, a family man, right? She doesn't take into account that he's hardworking, that he's a fighter, a guy who risks his life out there on the streets of Brazil, right? Streets in terrible condition, full of criminals. That's a fact. That's what we deal with every day. And she didn't take that into consideration. She's soulless. That's my point of view. I'm making it clear here, all right? She's soulless, heartless. That's what she is. She decided to make a name for herself with this Uber thing, stirring up controversy. It's that old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. The truth is, just like what happened with Peppa Pig, she lost her audience. Nobody cares about Raquel anymore. Nobody wants to hear what she has to say. Right, she only has her own bubble. And now she knows, since she's gearing up to run for federal deputy. Audience, right? Which is what Enéas already explained. Enéas talked a lot, Social Democratic Party, the PSD, right? She's seeing her audience dropping, melting away. And now she's doing what Enéas used to say about politicians.
The professional politician is a specialist in generalities, knows absolutely nothing in depth, is really semi-illiterate, learned to trade favors, to always lie as a rule for political survival. My name is Enéas.
The Brazilian politician was usually like that. Most fit the standard, though a small percentage did not. Dr. Enéas himself was not like that. He was at the peak of his career. And many people didn't understand, like, Enéas, you're at your peak, right? You're very well recognized. He had books for cardiologists. In fact, he taught courses, besides being a renowned professor and doctor. People didn't understand why he entered politics, but he believed, I'm doing it right. I have the knowledge and I want to use it to help my people. To improve people's lives, I don't need to go there. In fact, Enéas is the only politician who became poorer in politics. Yes, right. When they did the math, when they did the research, right? Yeah. When they checked his assets, they saw that it had decreased a lot, right? Why? Because that's what happens when you're honest, unlike what we see with everyone else nowadays. But Enéas called this out. The standard for politicians wasn't like that. The standard for politicians was different. The guy failed in his career. The guy, I don't know, he's in a profession, right? Things went wrong. He started to fall apart. So he runs to politics to keep his prestige and keep making a lot of money. That's exactly what Raquel is doing. Nobody cares anymore about what she says or doesn't say or what she does. So she uses this controversy to start stirring things up. That's all people are talking about on social media today, right? This Uber case, and maybe this could backfire. I wouldn't be surprised if she gets elected. It's sad that this happens. It's just another reason, in my opinion, why you have to get out of here, right? Because there will be a lot of people who will vote. But anyway, regardless of that, I'm already explaining why she's doing this and why I think she's lying in this story. I'll make the situation clear here. Look, she said she was upset that the guy left, but at the same time, she makes videos all dressed up, fixing herself, her hair. That's not what a nervous person does, right? If you're nervous, you'd be shaking, your voice would tremble, and you'd struggle with words. But she's fine, very calm. She styled her hair deliberately just to score points by going after a working man. I'm going to play the video and then we'll be back, all right. With Renato 381's response, listen to her speaking and then we'll be back.
How do you file a complaint? A complaint about this Uber here. Look, I took this Uber. It's been half an hour. I stopped early. I'll even show you the license plate. Yeah. And you know, right, Uber, we get to choose, right? If we want air conditioning, if we want to talk to the driver, if we want to listen to the radio, those things. I didn't choose anything. I never have any demands like that. The only thing I asked him was to change the radio station. He was listening to music that was way too loud. I said, could you put it on Band News FM, please? Because I love Ronaldo Azevedo, my friend, and I'd like to listen to the news, you know, news time. I'm a journalist, right? We like that. He said no, so I asked, but why, sir? Because I don't like Band News, he said. I replied, okay, but I like it, and I'm the customer. I'm paying. Look, he's already leaving now, but I'm going to show everything, every little thing that happened. I've called the military police. They're on their way, and I'll file a report. That's his car, and I've ordered another Uber to pick me up. He simply said he was going to cancel the ride, repeating that he would cancel. He stopped here on a street, Erna, and wanted me to get out, and I said, I'm not getting out, I'm not getting out. You have to drop me off at my house. You picked me up at my house. You're going to drop me off at my house. He didn't want to. He got irritated, rude, and I said, I'm not leaving here either. And I immediately called the military police, called the MP. I called 190, and I'm waiting for the police car.
Well, now let's go to the 381. Go off 381. You didn't pay for the radio. You didn't pay for it to listen to crap you didn't want to. You paid for the spot you were sitting in. 381.
He's not your employee. You didn't pay for submission. You didn't pay to force him to listen to what he didn't want to. If you wanted to listen to Band News, you should have put headphones in your own ears. You never had this problem because you probably never tried to boss the guy around asking for something that wasn't his responsibility. He's not your employee. He's your business partner, and you only paid for the ride for the spot you're sitting in. Imagine in several countries where there's shared Uber. The driver has 4 passengers in the car and each one wants to listen to the radio. What was he supposed to do? Here in Bahia, there are also people like Charazade who think that because they're paying, they can do whatever they want in the Uber. 3 homosexuals started an orgy inside the Uber. And the Uber driver got upset, made the mistake of trying to fight the guys, and got slapped in the face with a dick. Watch the screen.
So, in a vehicle, 3 homosexuals got in, 2 spoke Spanish and normal Portuguese, and then halfway through I went up Ladeira da Barra, almost reaching Largo da Vitória. They ended up making someone cry during oral sex inside my vehicle. I asked them to get out of the vehicle. He started coming at me all worked up. I ended up getting out of the vehicle. He did...
Assaulted me in the car, then assaulted you outside?
Right? Yeah. Inside the car, he threatened to assault me. Then I got out of the car. My blood boiled. I got out of the car. He threw a glancing punch that hit my glasses and ended up hitting me here. Look. Right here near my nose. It ended up hurting me, but nothing serious.
That part that Trezoitão included was really interesting, my brothers, because it confirms a narrative I have here, which is actually a fact. Nowadays, our country is completely given over to depravity. People don't even respect themselves anymore, let alone others. Besides that, non-traditional relationships have been increasingly encouraged. So there are a lot of Uber drivers getting hit on, with guys saying, look, let me do something for you in exchange for the ride, and so on and so forth. Every day there are indecent, immoral, outrageous proposals happening. And anyone who drives for Uber knows this and will confirm it in the comments. I even asked for that, right? Because this is being encouraged more and more. So, my brothers, this is the result, the increase in that population. And obviously, with this population increasing, a good part, of course not everyone, but there are a lot of people involved, low. If I walk around here at night, you'll see, you hardly find here in my city, you can barely find a prostitute on the streets anymore. It's very difficult. What you find if you go downtown are exactly LGBT people selling their bodies. If you're walking by with your wife and you turn your face away, they get irritated and start showing their private parts. Later, when someone snaps and does something, maybe the guy who lost his job gets angry and someone else reacts, they call it violence. When a person like that, starts a fight, even when they cheat, I always say that the strongest link in a relationship has always been the woman. Women, culturally, are more faithful. So today that's changing because of what they're working on, but it's always been like that. The most common thing was for the woman to be that strong point, the solid backbone of the marriage. The man would sometimes cheat and regret it, but there was still a strong bond. Today, Marriages fail because women are becoming worse than men were. So everything is going wrong. And then the statistics start to show up. When crime happens, I remember it like it was yesterday. When I started paying attention to this, I would see the news. Look, another hate crime. But then when I went to look at the hate crime, it was 2 LGBT people. But one was cheating on the other. The guy went there, killed both of them, and then they called it a hate crime. But how is it a hate crime against LGBT people if the 2 were a couple and one cheated? It shouldn't be counted as a hate crime. It was a crime of passion, right? Yet that's how it's recorded in statistics. You see the same with women, for example. There are a lot of deaths of women. No. What's happening in Brazil, and speaking statistically, right, these statistics, they're manipulated. Why? Because women are entering areas where they didn't used to work before. If you take, for example, the number of women who were police officers in the 1980s, and you look now in 2026, you'll see that it has increased drastically. So, if they're entering more risky professions, it's obvious that there will also be more casualties. Besides, when you look at crimes, it's really true. When it comes to shootings, hired killings, stabbings, you'll see that the number of men is much higher. As I've already shown in other videos here, that's not the topic. Alright, my brothers? So it was really good that 381 posted this last video, because it shows what Uber drivers have been facing, and how these people, because of this lack of restraint, are behaving and feel completely protected. They even get outraged when someone speaks up, because they know the law is on their side. It's a group, right? A protected group. So, my brothers, I'm not going to say anything. I'll let 381 analyze the mollusk. He really went after him. It's interesting for you to watch with me. Let's see, to wrap up this video, what 381 shows and says about the mollusk. Let's go. I remember in the
Globo debate, you said your first action would be to lift the 100-year secrecy order on Bolsonaro's records, but then you did the same thing, which disappointed many people. Why did you put secrecy on everything?
You lied! Why? That's the question, right, Isueli?
No, I'll give you some material to read. Read it later. Let me tell you something.
That's the answer, right, Isueli?
First, I'm strongly against 100 years of secrecy. I'm strongly against 20 years of secrecy, too. So, I think it should
be more from the others.
Secrecy, only for matters of the state. Yeah, it's national security or something similar. I'll give you the explanation about what's happening. The first thing we tried to do was change the law, but it's not easy to change.
Why do you classify something? Why do you make something secret? Why not make it transparent? It would be better.
Who made the transparency law? We did.
So, but why not? What limits you?
It's not my decision, so it doesn't limit me. The choice doesn't even reach the presidency. A government body investigates these matters.
You can't just put your foot down and say,
I don't want to. You can if you want. What should I tell my assistant today? If a journalist asks for information,
something that's confidential.
If the person in charge refuses, he asks me. What am I supposed to say? Nowadays things kept secret for 20 or 30 years shouldn't even be kept secret. And why are they? That's what I understand, okay? They don't even deserve to be, okay? But I'll tell you. If someone, I won't change the law. No, okay? I won't change the law. But today I had a discussion about this. I'm going to announce it publicly here from your,
For those who are watching,
let me say this. If someone asks you a question, and someone says it's classified for 50 years or 20 years or 30, if it's not something involving a minor, if it's not something that can't be said, especially if it's not national security, if it's not, my friend, ask me and I'll tell you.
Look,
you can ask me.
If you did the same as Bolsonaro, you should admit it. Are you like him, yes or no? Because during his time, there was also the same law that you mentioned. You promised and didn't keep it. Vilaya asked, why did you lie? And you answer, no, I'm just following the law. Isn't that exactly what the coward did? Yes or no? Lula said, ask me. Ask anything that doesn't involve minors or national security and I'll answer. And then Vilaya should have replied, then I want all the expenses. From the government credit card, which they say Janja has already spent more than 1 million reais per day. Just put the entire bill on the internet. Slipped up, and that's it. Slipped up. That's it, Erlen. I think Lula would do the same as Rebelaro. He would say he'd put it up in 30 days and never actually do it, just like Rebelaro is doing with the accounting for Dark Rossi, the movie sponsored by Pelaleca. Isn't that right? Lula, if you were interested in ending the illegal use of secrecy classifications, which bill was sent to Congress? With your support to put an end to this? I haven't heard about it. I put it in ChatGPT. Who has the authority to determine the confidentiality of presidential expenses? Here's the answer. The authority to classify and determine the confidentiality of presidential documents and expenses belongs to the presidential authority itself. I don't know if it's true, but the chat said you lied. Maybe ChatGPT is lying, I don't know. But Welly now, isn't that right, Erlen? Is that right, Erlen? Isn't it? Mudar a lei, deveria indicar o PL. Do you have or not have power over the majority of Congress? For most of your administration, the majority of Congress voted the way you wanted. Why was this never put on the agenda? That's right.
That's right. I say that too, my brothers. The truth is, my friends, when a guy starts getting on these big podcasts and so on, even the questions are agreed upon beforehand. They say they're not. They say we just do it randomly. That's not true. If you do it randomly, the guy won't show up, right? So if Molusco goes there, everything is already arranged. Like, look, this kind of thing I don't want you to ask. This kind of thing. And so on, right? And Molusco is a liar, right, my brothers? He's the one who spends the most on the government credit card. He put everything under secrecy. It's absurd. And it's even contradictory to what he says. No, but it's state secrecy or whatever. Man, the state belongs to the people. The state belongs to the people. So, if you even use the people's money to pay these state bills and then you don't want to tell the people, it already shows, my brothers, that we are in fact slaves, right? That's the truth. I don't think, let me make this very clear, I don't think this is going to change, especially in the short term. So, if you've already hit your 40s like I have, man, you're going to spend the rest of your youth that you have left. Let's say until you're 55, that's another 15 years for someone who's 40. I'm 42, so that's just 13 more years, right? I'm not saying it's over when a guy turns 55, right? Davey, I follow you and I'm older than that, but I don't feel washed up. No, there are a lot of people who are 65 and are in better shape than some guys who are 30. But that's not it. I mean, in general, you know? There are certain things you want to do or places you want to go that you yourself say, damn, that time has already passed. So, you're going to spend the good years you still have, right? Let's say until you're 65, that's it. You're going to stay here and put your hope, your money, because that's what it is. It's your money that's going. Your hope in this case is the money, your stocks. Because you have countries nearby where this charge is lower. This money that I do the math here, if you go to Paraguay today, you'll save 30%. And look, I'm not selling anything, I don't have anything. Whether you go or not, I'm speaking here as a friend. Yeah, that's my plan. That's what I'm working on. That's what I suggest you do, brother, because this won't change soon. It won't, all right? And the reason isn't just because we have a completely rigged system. The branches of government are rigged. There are bad people there. Because all of that could be changed. But the biggest problem, I think, is the culture. For decades, the media has acted in complete subservience, using its programming to indoctrinate people through old shows. In fact, this started since the beginning. Is it showing results now? So, in other words, my brothers, it's not that change isn't possible, it's that many people support the system as it is, and some even want to expand this system. When you see people, you know, wanting a fixed schedule, I understand. I've worked with a formal contract for a long time. I know how exhausting it is, but people want a reduction in their work schedule. Forcing it, instead of saying, no, we're doing well, we're prospering, we can do this. When people want to do things by force, when people want this welfare, you know, these social programs, when people want to tax the richest because they think that's what's going to make the country move forward, all of this is the result, you know, of years and years of indoctrination. So people can't see the obvious anymore. So, to change this, it's not going to happen overnight. If Dr. Enéas showed up now, he would face, even if we managed to elect him, he would face impeachment. Dr. Enéas, I'm sure of it today, if Dr. Enéas had been elected, he would have been impeached. If he were elected and resurrected now, he would be impeached. Because a part of the population simply doesn't accept that. And it's going to take years, right? Years to change that. So, don't get confused, right? By these channel echo chambers. There are channels that get, I don't know how many thousand views, but it's just a bubble family. The TikTok and Instagram generation, people who watch short videos, don't watch videos like this. But that crowd will show up there, the majority, right? To keep the system just the way it is. Given that, focus on improving yourself. I'll leave the link in the video description so you can watch the full video from 381, alright? Thanks again for being here. God bless you. Take care and fum!